Warning: this video will contain some story spoilers. Whenever a spoiler is about to be shown on the screen, I will display another warning. Pokémon Legends Arceus is the newest installment of the core main series Pokémon games. Being a fan of the franchise myself from a young age, it's safe to say that even after 25 years, the new game still surprised me in a very positive way, as you're about to find out. Now, to make this review as accurate as possible, I will break down the game into different categories and score each of those categories before totaling the game's final score. YouTube has a handy chapters feature where you can easily browse each category by navigating through the video scroll bar or by clicking the timestamp in the description below. Before I begin, I do just want to point out that if you are someone who outright despises this game just because it doesn't have voice acting, this video is not for you. And I must also point out that this entire video is based upon my own personal opinion of the game and is not meant to upset people whose opinions differ from mine. If you didn't enjoy this game at all and disagree with my points, that's okay. And if someone really loves something I didn't, again, that's okay. Now, without further ado, let's get straight to it. When I played through the game for the first time, I was expecting a long, grindy experience, similar to that of World of Warcraft, where you're left to gather resources and do quests upon a barren wasteland. I was pleasantly surprised to find that this was not the case at all. This game is bursting with life. The story held me on edge the entire time, and in fact I didn't want to put the game down when it was time for bed. I even had dreams about what would happen in the story. The story itself is quite dark and sinister, something quite new for a game mostly aimed at younger audiences. There are mentions of death and Pokémon mauling people. There were almost no cliché moments, other than the painstakingly obvious for comical purposes, which helps the story progress better. Overall, the story was told in a marvellous and fantastic way. Okay, so this is going to be the first spoiler warning. The clip I'm about to show you is a massive spoiler to the main story of the game, so if you do not wish to see the spoiler, pause the video now and then choose the next chapter. Ever since I played Pokémon Platinum, I have wanted a 3D version of the Spear Pillar event, showing Giratina jumping at the player and filling the screen. Granted, they did make an anime version of this, which was cool in itself, but not really what I wanted. I was expecting something in the Gen 4 remakes to fulfill my dream, but alas, all we got was a distortion room and an uncatchable Shadow Giratina, and no Spear Pillar Giratina scene. I was extremely surprised and literally jumped out of my chair and screamed with joy, like the inner child that I am, when I saw this happen in Legends Arceus. I rate the story a 10 out of 10. While many fans were expecting a fully open world experience, this was not the case for Pokémon Legends Arceus. I actually prefer the way this game was made in its current style. The areas you unlock are based upon both your progress in the story and your Pokédex rank. This makes you fully explore the vast wilderness that each zone has to offer before you rush along to the next zone. In my newest playthrough, I am already a 4th star before even battling the first noble Pokémon, Kleavor. You are given total freedom to do whatever you like in each of the zones after you unlock them. You could go to the quest marker, or you could complete requests, or you could just mess around, run through the map, pick up items and resources, find lost player satchels, or fill pages in your Pokédex research notes. Or do what I did and get your butt kicked by a level 40 Alpha Rapidash because you were a little too curious. I know I'm not the only one to do this. Take a look at this footage by a great YouTuber, TyranitarTube. A link to subscribe to his channel will be in the description.
Would you like an orange berry? Oh god damn! Ah! 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 Oh no!
I give player progression a 10 out of 10. All I have to say about the music in this game is bravo, absolute bangers. I especially love the nostalgic feeling that most of the soundtrack is reminiscent of the Gen 4 games and their respective remakes. When I was about to fight Cleavor, the Eterna Forest music was playing in the background and it gave me the chills. You're actually listening to it right now. There is not a single piece of music in this game that I do not like. You've outdone yourself this time, folks. I also love the music that plays when you are being watched by an alpha Pokemon. It gives you that sense of dread that anything that could go wrong may go wrong. I will give music a 10 out of 10. Honestly, I would love to give this a 10 out of 10, as it's a huge step up to Sword and Shield. However, I simply cannot. There are quite a lot of graphical issues in this game that I would like to address. Sometimes there are texture clipping that look out of place. The water shaders are simply terrible, and there is a lot of pixelation and discoloration at times. The space-time rift looks really bad when you see it from afar. Unfortunately, the Nintendo Switch is only capable of rendering images in 720p, which is alright for a handheld device, but as you're about to see, could be a lot better if Nintendo were to make a proper home console. On day one of the game's release, players were able to upscale the game into 4K and even 8K to make the game look even more beautiful. And sadly, there is no competition between playing it in high definition than to play the lower resolution version. All these flaws sadly give it a 5 out of 10 score in my opinion. One of the most important things in a video game is to make the environment feel alive. This helps the player immerse themselves into the game world. This is sadly something not present in Pokémon Legends Arceus, as almost every NPC in the game is a lifeless zombie. Most of the time, an NPC will just stand still, lifeless, as if their only reason to exist is to be approached upon by the player, and let me tell you something, that is not a good thing. It isn't difficult to make NPCs walk around or do something rather than just standing still in one place. However, there are some environmentally friendly things in this game too. As I was playing through the early parts of the game, I noticed that each Pokemon has its own individual personality. Some Bidoof may run away if you try to catch them, others may follow you out of interest, and sometimes they play with each other. And one experience I got to witness was when I spotted two Eevee in the wild. I crept in the grass so as not to disturb them, but they were playing together. One of them fell asleep, so I took my chance and caught the other one. The sleeping Eevee then woke up and immediately started to look for its buddy which I had caught. This made me feel a little sad, so I tried to catch both of them, but it burst out of the ball and began to run away from me. I frantically chased it and managed to catch him though, so they're both reunited and happily living together in the village pasture. I give the environment a 6 out of 10. For the most part, the battle system is more or less the same as it's always been. However, some things have gotten more confusing. Some Pokemon, mostly your opponent, can attack multiple times in a row. The new agile and strong style system is something nobody asked for. Nobody. And the annoying text that appears whenever you use it gets repetitive very, very quickly. However, I do love how dynamic the battles are. I had a lot of fun just running around while the Pokemon punched each other senselessly. I give this an 8 out of 10. The boss fights in this game is everything we've needed in a Pokemon game. Please keep this mechanic in future generations. The boss fights are similar to Dark Souls, where you, the player, have to dodge incoming attacks in an action-based environment. The bosses each have different phases that the player must learn in order to beat them. One of the phases of each battle involves sending your Pokemon out into battle to tire the boss, so that you can throw more bombs at them. This is not actually necessary, and you can beat the boss without ever throwing a single Pokeball at them. Okay, this is another spoiler warning. I am about to explain something which may spoil the story for you. I am not afraid to admit that I struggled a lot with the Arcanine and Avalugg fights. Arcanine will make a ring of fire in the dead center of the field, preventing you from moving to a different part of the platform. Avalugg will throw ice missiles at you at tremendous speed. If you don't have quick reaction time, this game is not for you. I give boss fights a 10 out of 10. Pokémon Legends Arceus was first revealed on February 26, 2021. There were very minimal trailers shown throughout the year. It wasn't until January 13th, 2022 when a 13-minute gameplay trailer was delivered, 2 weeks before the game would be released. And even after that, we still didn't know what the game was or what it was about. The very first trailer back in February showed no NPCs. Jubilife Village was void of all life, and most of the environment looked barren and lackluster. Honestly, I did not pre-order the game until the last week before release. There are so many cool features and mechanics in this game that nobody knew about. The Pokemon Company could have teased just 1, maybe 2 of these features, and there would still be a heck of a lot of new stuff to be discovered. But alas, that never happened. Due to the lack of interesting content shown in the trailers, people were scared that the game would fail terribly. I would give marketing a 1.5 out of 10. Another thing they did well with this game is the character progression. Each character has their own personalities, and these personalities grow alongside you as you play. Here's another spoiler warning, in case you don't want to hear some story stuff. An example of character progression done well is the situation between the Diamond and Pearl clan leaders, Adamant and Arida. At first, they more or less hate each other's guts. There are mentions of their 2 clans going into war with one another throughout the game. By the end, they have calmed down a lot and may even enjoy each other's company. They've learned to see past the other's differences and cooperate together as equals. This sends a powerful message about how you choose to act upon other people's beliefs and opinions. Kind of like this review video being based entirely on my opinion. Anyway, I give this a 10 out of 10. The dialogue in this game is absolutely superb. Some of the characters have funny personalities and or just say something funny. The vocabulary has been used very well, though some lines of dialogue seem a bit cheesy or unnecessary. There is this one line of dialogue that a few players picked up upon in negative response. You caught Pokemon name unawares. This is actually grammatically correct, but it just doesn't seem like it. This caused the negative response and a lot of players to assume it was a typo. This calls for a 9 out of 10. The facial expressions in this game go far beyond our expectations. Not only do characters and Pokemon themselves turn their head and lock onto the player, but they really outdid themselves when animating Ray's shocked expression. Thus was the birth of many memes. The attention to detail when animating the expressions was done superbly, so I give this a 10 out of 10. There are so many controls that it's easy to forget what each button does exactly. The game offers you 2 pages of controls, as well as various on-screen pop-ups during the story progression to teach you the controls. There is an NPC who tells you to be careful not to throw the wrong kind of Pokeball. At first I shrugged this off as just a dialogue joke, until it happened to me. Again, and again, and again some more. I can't tell you how many times I've thrown an empty Pokeball at a tree instead of my Cyndaquil to knock down some apricorns or berries. I give the controls a 7 out of 10. There are times where you are required to do some grinding before you can progress with the story. Each new zone requires you to have reached a certain star rank before you can access them and proceed with the main story. The higher star you are, the more grinding you'll need to do to earn the next star. It's more than just finding a Pokemon and catching it. Some tasks require you to catch 25, up to 40 of them. Catch 20 without being noticed, see it use a certain move or something like that. It can get a bit boring after a while, but it's not too repetitive that you'd lose interest altogether. I give grinding a 9 out of 10. This game allows you to customize your character similarly to previous games like Sword and Shield, Sun and Moon, X and Y, etc. This time you're able to choose eye color and have a wide variety of different hairstyles and costumes. It's what you'd expect out of character customization, and it does it well. Currently there's a mystery gift event that will end sometime in early May, where you can get some free clothing such as the Baneful Fox mask and the Growlithe kimono set. Also, if you have play records of previous games such as Let's Go Pikachu or Eevee, Sword or Shield, or Brilliant Diamond or Shining Pearl, you'll get even more. I give character customization a 10 out of 10. Pokémon Legends Arceus is a single player game, and with that, there are no online battles or battle tournaments. I mean, it makes sense, given that it's in an era where people are too scared of Pokemon to want to battle with them. Still, this game offers absolutely nothing to those who play Pokemon to build a competitive team. Given that there are new Pokemon, this is a major letdown for people who may have wanted something competitive to help them build a decent team. Granted, there are these grit items which increase your Pokemon's stats, but again, this is a useless mechanic if all you're going to use your tanks on are non-player characters. So it should come as no surprise that I score this a 0 out of 10. Currently, the only online features that this game offers are Mystery Gift, online trading, and Lost and Found. You don't even need the internet to use Lost and Found, as the game will generate lost satchels anyway. It would have been cool to add Wonder Trading, a mechanic that allows you to trade a Pokemon of your choice to a random player in the world and end up with a random Pokemon in return. They could have used the whole time-space situation to explain how that works, but one can only dream, right? I give online features a 2 out of 10. When you compare this game to other games like Breath of the Wild or Genshin Impact, Pokémon Legends Arceus doesn't even come close. Everybody expected an open world environment with immersive gameplay. While Game Freak semi-delivered, it could have been so much more. It's still the greatest Pokemon game we've had since Platinum, in my opinion of course. This does however lead me to be excited to see where the Pokemon franchise evolves in future games. I give this a 5 out of 10. The thing that bugs me the most is the fact that background models will have their animation frames lowered to about 2 or 3 frames per second. This wouldn't be too big of a deal if the models were actually far in the distance, but this effect happens even if the model is relatively close to the player. Also, the game tends to lag during some major boss fights due to too many particles and effects on the screen at once, and sometimes in the village during certain camera angles. This may or may not be patched in a later update though, so for the time being, optimization gets a 4 out of 10. During my first playthrough, it took me about 22 hours to beat the main story. Since the game is all about Arceus, you still have to reach him at some point. In order to get the opportunity, you need to catch each and every Pokemon in the game. You do not need to complete all the research tasks, but if you were, it would probably take you about 60 plus hours of your time. DLC may or may not be added in the future, so bear that in mind when you compare the base game length with that of Sword and Shield with their Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra expansion passes. Now that I've analysed each part of the game's development, here comes the fun part, rating the game as a whole. I would love to say that Legends Arceus is a perfect game and that everyone who likes Pokemon should give it a try. However, that is not realistic. As I pointed out in a few of these chapters, this game does not offer something for all Pokemon fans, such as the competitive side of things. Pokémon Legends Arceus is my new favourite Pokemon game, and definitely one of the greatest games the Pokemon Company have released in recent times. I urge people to at least give it a try before slamming it at least. However, the final score I give to Pokémon Legends Arceus is a 7 out of 10. If you watched the whole video, thank you very much. It's very easy to ramble on about things, especially given how excited I am with this game. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing as it helps out a lot. I even have a Let's Play going on, and episode 2 is right around the corner. I will of course be playing in the upscaled 4K version where everything looks more visually appealing. I would also love to hear from you, the viewer. If you own the game, write a comment about how you're finding it, or if you're not wanting to buy it at all, let me know your reasoning. I'd love to hear all your thoughts and opinions about the game. Well, that's all for now. Stay tuned for more content. Bye bye.